So far, we've already reviewed a few assault rifles, a submachine gun, and a light support gun in BattleBit Remastered. But I think it's time for a big change of pace. Let's finally embrace our inner chungoose by diving into the world of light machine guns with the first one you unlock in this game. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be doing a weapon review for the M249 Light Machine Gun. So folks, for those of you who are new to the channel, here's how the video is going to be laid out today. We're going to start off with a breakdown of the M249's stats and performance, talking about all the pros and cons that build up the weapon. We'll then get into some weapon-specific tips and tricks for using the M249 to the height of its powers. And finally, we'll wrap up with some discussion around the attachment options available to the weapon and how we can take it to the next level. Once again, a big thanks goes to BattleBit community member Oxygen, whose tools and stats collation has done a great job to inform these weapon reviews. And in addition to that, just before we get into things here today guys, a big thank you has to go out to all of you for the support on the channel lately. We are very close to 50,000 subscribers, which is just insane to think about. I normally don't mention this sort of stuff this early in the video, but if you do find yourself enjoying the content and returning on a regular basis thanks to the YouTube algorithm, hit that subscribe button and help us get to that milestone. I would really appreciate it guys. But alright folks, let's move into the details around the M249 and see what we're dealing with here. As is tradition here, let's start off with damage. Now, if you're someone who is familiar with the M4A1 assault rifle in particular, then some of the numbers that are on your screen now may look a little familiar to you. It's because, well, the M249 features the same maximum damage output and same fire rate as the M4A1, which from a damage perspective makes it very similar to what I know a lot of you are going to be used to. The M249 sports a maximum damage of 30 out to the 101 meter mark, dropping off to a minimum damage of 9 at the 299 meter mark, which gives the weapon a very nice and consistent 4-shot kill against most unarmored and lightly armored targets in the game, but stretches all the way out to a 6-shot kill against any fellow support players of yours who happen to be rocking that exo armor. Nothing special, but also nothing terrible either in the damage department, right down the middle of the road really as far as damage payloads go. The M249 does certainly feel the benefits, however, of going for headshots with its damage output. Rocking the 1.5 times headshot multiplier sees it score a 3 bullet to kill against both unarmored and medium helmet targets, which certainly goes the distance in making the weapon more efficient in its travels. I would argue that that's actually a pretty important consideration for the M249 and its role on the battlefield, but we'll dive into that in a bit more detail shortly. In the fire rate department, the M249 takes the crown for the category at 700 rounds per minute or 11.67 rounds per second. Obviously, not much of a competition when the only other LMG in the category is the Ultimax at the moment, but you get the idea. It's the fastest firing LMG in the game right now. Again, enjoyers of the M4A1 will find this rate of fire pretty cozy and familiar to them, so it makes for a nice transition as you unlock the M249 at level 20. So noting all of that here, let's talk to the time to kill on offer. The M249 sports a time to kill that sits anywhere between a best case scenario of 257 milliseconds, extending out quite significantly to 949 milliseconds at its minimum damage range. This is exacerbated even further as exo armor enters the conversation, clocking in at a theoretical time to kill of 1.457 seconds at that minimum damage range. It's worth pointing out, for anyone curious, that this does beat out the Ultimax LMG as far as time to kill is concerned. So that definitely awards some brownie points to the M249 if you're comparing the LMGs looking for which one is going to be best suited to your playstyle. But again, while the M249 is certainly the star child in the LMG category, it doesn't really break any records in the time to kill department across the wider game here. It's not going to be blitzing through targets in record time, but it's more than serviceable in getting the job done. Again, sort of right down the middle here. We do see though just how much headshots are rewarded with the M249 though, especially against medium helmets. Engaging a target wearing medium armors and helmets with headshots shaves almost 200 milliseconds off of the effective time to kill when compared to body shots of the same armor type, which is a big difference. Even against exo helmets, we shave approximately 170 milliseconds off of that time to kill. So yeah, while you may be using a big bulky LMG with a ton of ammo behind it, it pays to be accurate and well placed with it. As always, just want to be clear in mentioning that these time to kill stats are theoretical in nature, assuming that all bullets hit either the chest or the head area sequentially with a 100% accuracy and no bullet travel time taken into consideration. Obviously, the further a target is away from you, the less accurate you are likely going to be, so just remember that when looking at these stats as well. But alright, moving on to the handling here, we are going to see some pretty extreme and new stats here for our weapon reviews, given that this is the first LMG that we are looking at in this series of reviews. Starting off with the recoil here, we are rocking a 1.10 vertical kick and a 1.30 horizontal kick, which makes the weapon very easy to control from a vertical perspective, even under longer bursts. But the horizontal shake of the weapon does sort of forcibly reel in that effective range a little bit here. It's nothing crazy. I would say that the AK-15 or the L86A1 struggle a bit more with their horizontal recoils comparatively, but it's worth being aware of here with the M249 as well. Throw in the fact that we have an accuracy of 70.0 here, which is actually worse than all of the assault rifles in the game based on my read here. And yeah, we have a weapon that, despite its trusty vertical recoil, could definitely use some care and caution in engaging at longer ranges, thanks to the accuracy and the horizontal shake. Now, obviously, we're using an LMG here, so this is where things get a bit interesting with the big, whopping 100 round magazine and the flow-on effects that has on reload statistics and mobility. First and foremost, yep, the M249 sports the longest reload in the game on an infantry weapon, hands down, no question about it. Clocking in at a whopping 6.7 seconds, the weapon almost feels like it forces you to go on a piss break, a drink break, and a food break all at the same time. And hell, by the time you get back to your PC after all of that, you'll still be reloading the weapon. So yeah, it sounds like a lot, but if we consider the fact that we're looking at the same lethality as the M4A1 in CQC, while sporting over triple the magazine size and only approximately 1.5 times the reload speed of the assault rifles in the game on average, you actually come out with a pretty sweet deal, all things considered, with the M249, its magazine economy, and its reload time. It will require a change in your mentality when it comes to managing ammunition, but it's something that is certainly worth learning. Something I did find surprising here was that the tac reload for the weapon only appears to clock in at around about 6.4 seconds, which is hardly an improvement from the baseline reload speed and leaves a lot to be desired. Given how long it takes to pick these bulky magazines back up off of the ground after you drop them, it's really not worth doing. The long reload here, however, oh boy, if you get caught with the 7.883 second monster of a reload with the M249, you'll just start to feel the grey hairs growing over you in the meantime. You can have 100 rounds to enjoy, but enjoy in moderation and avoid that lengthier reload as best you can. As we alluded to earlier, we're also going to take some hits to the mobility sides of things when we look at the sheer size of this beast. The ADS time here clocks in at 350 milliseconds, the longest that we've looked at on the channel thus far, and it really goes without saying that this might make more aggressive players in the game feel very cumbersome and slow when using this weapon. The long and short of it is that by the time you get your sight with the M249 to your eyes, there's half a chance that your opponent has ADS'd and sent you straight to the Shadow Realm already. So that's a factor worth considering. The M249 also sports a run speed of 0.9 times, shaving a passive 10% off of your character's movement speed as long as this weapon sits in your inventory. For someone who is typically a very aggressive player, this sucked to get used to, let me tell you. But okay, as we wrap up the stats-driven part of this video, that actually segues us very nicely into our discussion around getting the most out of the M249 and going on some tips and tricks here today. Because the M249 being one of the two LMGs in the game, it requires a very different mindset and approach to using it effectively. Obviously, one of the biggest elements that defines the M249's role in the game is its 100 round magazine. It, in combination with the damage profile, affords the M249 probably the strongest crowd control capabilities in the entire game as of right now. It's an incredibly important role to carry in the game as well, and while I'll cede that it's an easy role to do in some capacity, I will argue that it's not a role that's easy to get right. And the biggest challenge that you will need to overcome to find success in that role of crowd control is going to be how effectively you can manage the weapon's magazine and getting the best bang for your buck for that extensive downtime that will be looming over your head. The reason I say that is that I see a lot of players pick up light machine guns and fall into this exact pitfall. While yes, it can be easy to approach the crowd control role in an FPS game by just bruting the magazine down range, quote unquote suppressing an area, I would argue that in BattleBit Remastered, making an effort to reserve this magazine capacity for actually killing targets will see you be a whole lot more effective in your role of crowd control in the game. And I know that that sounds like a really dumb and obvious tip to give here, but I see it all the time. People take the amazing magazine size and the incredible magazine economy that this weapon affords you as a player, and then immediately wastes all of it on firing at a corner without actually killing anyone. They are opting to keep players suppressed behind that corner, and showing some restraint in your trigger discipline, yes, even with an LMG like the M249, is going to put you in a much better position to engage targets for a far longer period uninterrupted, which in the scale of BattleBit is a huge amount of power to hold. To put some numbers behind it, within the maximum damage range, the M249 can kill 20 targets wearing medium armor per magazine, or 33 targets if you amp it up with some headshots. That's a crazy amount of opportunity to go on insane killing streaks, and if you practice restraint, you can actually do some wild stuff here that really takes the M249 from behaving like a slower, larger assault rifle to something that can actually net you some huge moments. Effective crowd control, at times, comes from showing restraint, despite how hard that can be to do so with a magazine size like this. Restraint also needs to be shown in how you move with the M249 as well. This isn't like the assault rifles or even the L86A1 that you would have been used to previously. The ADS speed here is slow, the movement speed is slow. Moving up to new positions and cover with the M249 needs to be calculated and deliberate. On top of that, reloading should also be calculated here, noting that a reload on this weapon is 6.7 seconds by default with no real way to improve that with attachments. If you spend this precious opportunity blasting away at nothing and not capitalizing on the magazine economy, you're only going to be faced with insane downtimes for not much reward. And enemies will know to take advantage of that. And this is also pretty obvious, but my god, is it really worth getting out of the habit of reloading after every kill or two with the weapon. BattleBit's magazine system already discourages this behavior, but for this gun in particular, my god, does it punish you for such behavior. Overall, it's very easy to get carried away with big light machine guns in games like this, and why wouldn't you? Big gun go brrr, and it makes the goody good chemical in the brain do its thing. I get it. I just wanted to take the opportunity to really emphasize the value of playing this weapon in a bit more of a calculated way, letting you take your gameplay to the next level. Alright, let's wrap up the video with some recommended attachments on how you can best build the M249 today. Now, while I have two builds for you guys here today, I'm going to caveat that the second build is very much a token build that you won't see any gameplay of in this video, but more on that in a second. My first build here is very much my jack-of-all-trades approach to the M249, designed to make the weapon a total laser that can take advantage of that magazine size and go on endless killing sprees on targets. Firstly, rock the HS401 G5 optic, a really clean scope which I think actually mitigates against some of the visual recoil in the game right now, but I need to confirm this still with some testing. Secondly, we're going to run the BCM gunfighter grip and the compensator combination. Both of these attachments together improve the vertical and the horizontal recoil, but primarily reel in the horizontal shake, which makes the M249 feel like a far nicer weapon to use under longer bursts. It's just much more consistent, much more stable, and you feel like you're fighting the weapon a whole lot less to stay accurate. Unfortunately, this sees us with an even slower movement speed here, but what can you do, right? We're using an LMG, may as well go the whole 9 yards. Now, the second build here for the day, yeah, it's the bipod build. As I said before, this is a build that is designed to be the quote-unquote token LMG build for setting up, holding an angle, and just bruting with the most amount of accuracy that you can muster. The problem with that, though, is that the bipod makes the weapon worse in basically every conceivable way while you're not deployed with it. It completely screws the recoil, it gives you one of the worst aiming down sight speeds that you will encounter in this game using any kind of optic whatsoever, and it gives the weapon significantly worse mobility on top of what it already has. Sure, the bipod affords great defensive power in a good spot, but in order to reach that position, oh boy, you're going to be vulnerable as all hell. It's a build that is there, but you need to play very passively to do so, which just ain't me as far as a player is concerned, so you're not going to see any gameplay from it for me today. But folks, with all of that said, that is going to wrap up today's review of the M249 Light Machine Gun in BattleBit Remastered. We are continuing to pump out weapon reviews for this game's arsenal, and I've been really enjoying doing so. If you guys enjoyed the video as well, be sure to backhand the like button, it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here once again and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with future video releases, it does go a long way guys. And leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the M249. Do you like the weapon? Do you think it's in a good spot right now, or can you not stand it for the life of you? Let us know down below. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.